Welcome everyone at the 20th episode of the podcast I Was Feeling Epic. Today we will be talking about episode that is named Blood Brothers. And today's episode is packed with flashbacks. It is a little bit hard to keep track where we are, if it's present or if it's the past. I try to do my best to distinguish that if we're in a flashback or if we are in the present actually, but it will be a little bit harder to navigate today's episode. There is so much that happens in today's episode, so let's dive right into it, and I will try to go a little bit slower so that we can absorb everything that is happening. Um, Especially with Stefan in today's episode, it's him kind of hallucinating and just being between those two worlds, which is the present and the past. So let's have a look at today's episode that again is named Blood Brothers, which of course refers to Stefan and Damon. And I actually think that it's supposed to have a couple meanings, meaning that they are actually real brothers, like in real life, but also something that happens in today's episode, they become blood brothers in a different sense as well, which we will talk about later. Very first scene of today's episode is a very powerful, and we see Stefan, who is still locked in the cellar, and he is having hallucinations because he didn't have any blood, so he has cravings, he has like withdrawal syndromes, and he's hallucinating. In his hallucination, we find ourselves in a flashback in the year 1864. It's night, we are in the woods, and rounding up of the vampires is happening. Stefan and Damon are trying to free Catherine. Stefan lures away the men that are hanging around the carriage where Catherine is held. Then after that, Damon unlocks the carriage, pulls her out. Stefan is running back towards them. They untie Catherine and take off her muzzle, and they are telling her that they will get her out of here. But then, suddenly, Damon is shot. He falls to the ground. Stefan goes to him immediately and he keeps muttering, "No, no, Damon," and Damon dies. Stefan then gets up from the ground. He grabs a gun and he wants to point towards the men that are now running back towards them. But in the meantime, somebody shoots him. We don't know who. And Stefan falls down to the ground as well, and he is dying. He is looking at Damon's face, and Damon's face from the year 1864 interchanges with Damon's face in the present, who is talking to Stefan in the cell. Then Stefan is also looking at Catherine, and again, Catherine's face interchanges with Elena's face. So the past kind of merges with the present, and he is in between those two worlds. Then we see Catherine and Elena kind of simultaneously, and they both say, "I love you, Stefan." Then also there is a scene where they are taking Catherine away in the carriage, and Elena is being taken away by Damon, away from the cell. And it's such a good scene because in the details, like the best work is in the details, because Catherine is being taken away in the carriage and she grabs onto these bars in the back of the carriage, and then Elena in the present grabs onto the bars of the cell, and it just flows back and forth between those two scenes, and it's like identical, and it is so good. We also see in the scene that they captured Henry, which is a character that will be appearing later on in today's episode. So I just wanted to mention that we do see that because we will be talking about Henry later on. One of the men in the scene in 1864 then says, "We have to get back to the church. They are waiting for us." And that's, of course, a hint about that they did lock up the vampires underneath the church in the tomb where they were supposed to be set on fire and killed. But Emily's spell protected them from that. After this initial scene, which I have to say was quite long because some initial scenes are very, very short, but this one was quite long, we see the writing The Vampire Diaries on the screen, and today's episode is officially starting. In the next scene, we see Elena and Damon who are standing in front of the cell down in the cellar, and they are talking. Elena says, "It's so hard to see him locked up like this." And Damon says, "You're the one who locked him up. You helped. I couldn't have him running around chewing on people while the town was looking for vampires now, could I? It had nothing to do with you actually caring about him. Your thing, not mine." In the next scene, we are again in the flashback in the year 1864. And Stefan is waking up with like a shock, and right away he opens his shirt and he sees that the bullet wound from last night, or last thing he remembers, the bullet wound is gone. He also sees a ring on his hand and looks at it, and Emily is also there in this scene. Emily then tells him, "Catherine had me make that for you weeks ago," which means the ring. Stefan asks her where he is, and Emily says, "The quarry, just north of town. My brother and I brought you here last night. We found you dead in the woods." Stefan then asks her where is Damon, and then he's also stuttering like, am I, and he wants to ask like, am I a vampire? And Emily says, "Not yet, you are in transition." And Stefan doesn't quite understand, so he's like, "How?" And Emily says, "You had Catherine's blood in your system when you died." And Stefan is like, "No, I never. She's been compelling you to drink it for weeks, Stefan." And Damon? No compulsion was necessary. He drank from her willingly. Then Stefan goes over and joins Damon, who is sitting by the river. It is a very pretty landscape. It's a quarry with like a lake underneath it, and then there's a waterfall that falls into it, and it is very pretty. And I don't think we ever see this scenery again in the Vampire Diaries. Maybe once. Maybe when we come across Silas, I think. I'll have to look into that. So Stefan goes over to Damon, and Damon tells him, "I woke up last night. I didn't know where I was. I went to the church, and I watched them drag her inside. Then they set fire to it, and the whole church went up into flames. They killed her, Stefan. She's gone." And I find it quite funny that Damon, I know that he was killed first, but not by that much time, and yet he awoke during the night and has been awake for a couple of hours, but Stefan only awoken now. And Stefan, I think, awoken for the first time because he was looking for the wound, for the like shotgun wound, because that's the last thing he remembered. So that is very convenient that Damon woke up and saw that, right? In the next scene, we are in Damon's house. Damon is examining, that thing that Pearl gave him, which we don't really know what that is. And Elena is walking in and asks him if he already found out what it is. Damon says that he doesn't know, but whatever it is, it's not working. Then Damon is asking Elena if she recently talked with her Uncle John, and she says, "I've been avoiding him actually, and I've been here most nights." "So you'll be here again tonight? Is that a problem?" "Yes, you are a complete nuisance. See you later." So Damon, of course, is joking because he secretly loves that Elena is spending time in their house. And it is a very cute scene in between them, because it's just so cute the way they kind of coexist for the same goal, which is helping Stefan. Then we see Jeremy and Anna. Anna is showing Jeremy that she has a timetable for classes or class schedule, maybe. I don't know if you guys say timetable. I know that in British English that's what they taught us, timetable. But anyways, Anna tells him that she's officially a student in Mystic High School, and Jerry's asking her, "Why would you want to go to high school?" And she's like, "Do I really have to answer that?" And Jerry understands what she means by that, so he says, "So you're really gonna go to high school just to hang out with me?" That is, and Anna is like, stupid, pathetic, old lurky me. And Jeremy's like, no, it's awesome. And they start kissing. And I have to admit that the word lurky, and lurking is one of my favorite English words because it just sounds so cute, and I actually do use it at work a lot. In the next scene, we see Damon, who is bringing some blood for Stefan. It's animal blood. And Stefan tells him that he is not hungry. To which Damon gets a little bit upset, and he's like, of course you are. We are eternally hungry. Take it. The human blood should be gone by now. You want to explain why you're still in here? Are you feeling sorry for yourself? Come on, drink up. Then he quickly switches gears and he's like, fine, starve. What do I care? And then Damon is upstairs. He's walking into his living room and his phone is ringing. So Damon answers it. Hello? Hey, it's Larry Saltman. Before I hang up, how did you get this number? Oh, it's a mystery. Listen, I've been doing some digging on Elena's uncle. Are you interested? What kind of digging? I've got an old friend from Duke who studied criminology when we were there together. Let's just say he's become a very proficient digger. Well, did he find anything? Well, I had him run a track on John's cell records. He was getting a call from a number, the same number that Elena dialed to get Isabel. And then the number was disconnected. And Damon's like, yeah, Isabel knows John. Whatever, we knew that. Right. Well, after that, he started getting calls from a new number, and I had my friend run a geo track. Got the address. It's an apartment in Grove Hill. Isabel is in Grove Hill? I don't know. I thought we could take a look and see what we find. Perfect. Give me the address. Oh, so you can go without me? I don't think so. I'm not going with you. You tried to kill me. And Alaric is like, yeah, well, you did kill me. To which then Damon tells him, hold on, because he has a phone call on another line. So he puts Rick on hold, and then he picks up the phone, and it's Elena. She's asking how Stefan is, and Damon tells her, extremely broody. Hold on. In the meantime, he goes back to the phone call with Rick and tells him, you drive, pick me up in an hour. Then he goes back to the phone call with Elena and tells her that Stefan doesn't want to eat. And then Elena asks Damon what is Stefan's favorite kind of animal blood that he prefers. And then Damon, of course, being Damon, is making fun of her and tells her that Stefan loves, or his favorite blood is a blood of cute, floppy, golden retriever puppy blood. Come on, Damon. I don't even want to have that in my head. Stop it. After Elena hangs up the phone with Damon, we see her in her room. She's getting something in her closet, and then she closes the closet door, and behind the door is creepily standing her Uncle John. And Elena is startled, and I think everybody would be, because why would you just stand behind the door like that, being quiet? It's super creepy. So John tells her, I want to talk. He tells her, I know you know. Know what? It's a really silly to keep pretending. What do you think your mother would say if she knew you were dating a vampire? And then Elena thinks about it for a split of a second, and then she puts on this bitchy face, and she's like, which mother? And then she gives John a look I know, and then she walks away, which John is a little bit surprised by this, so he doesn't really say anything back, and Elena is just walking away. Then we see Stefan, who is sitting on the floor of his cell in the basement, and we are diving into another flashback. We are back in the year 1864, and Stefan is bringing a jug of water where Damon is sitting. He stands it next to Damon, and then they kind of wash their shirts in the water, I think from the blood, because they were shot. So, okay. And Stefan is saying, I bet Jonathan Gilbert has told father by now. Wonder how he took the news that we are dead. And Damon's like, as if he cares. He betrayed us. He thought he was protecting us, Damon. He thought he was protecting this town. And then Damon says that the sun is hurting his eyes, and Stefan replies, it's part of it. The muscle aches, the sick feeling. Emily says it's her bodies pushing us to feed to complete the transition. That's not gonna happen. And Stefan's like, is that your choice then? To die instead? And Damon, isn't it yours? This was all to be with Catherine, but she's gone. I want it over. In the next scene, we are in the Salvatore house. Elena is going down into the cellar to see Stefan in his cell, and she's asking him, how are you feeling? Damon says, you need to drink that. You need it, Stefan. Can't survive without it. And Stefan says, I don't want to survive. What? Don't say that. I'm sorry, Elena. No more. After what I've done, it has to end. I just want it over. Which is like a big freaking revelation. Like Stefan just saying like, yeah, I'm kind of done. I don't want to live anymore. So like, see ya. Like, you love me. Oh, that's great. But I am done. Then in the next scene, we are in the Damon's living room, and Damon and Elena are having a conversation. And Damon tells her, I guess Elena told Damon like what just happened, and Damon tells her he's just being dramatic. He's not gonna starve himself. Why would he say that then? He feels bad about hurting that girl. It's a very typical Stefan Meyer stuff. It will pass. Will it? Because he seemed to be in a lot of pain. Yeah, well, that will pass too once he eats. I didn't mean physical pain. I know what you meant. Look, are you gonna be okay if I have to run out? I have to go on an errand with the teacher. The teacher? Alaric? Are you two friends now? I don't have any friends, Elena. Right. You should stay up here. You shouldn't be down there by yourself. I'll be fine. And then Damon says, you are very trusting of him given the circumstances. So are you. Otherwise, you wouldn't be leaving. And then Damon turns around with like an understanding in his eyes and his face, and he says, I won't be long. And in this scene, I love that Damon kind of knows Stefan's patterns, and he knows that Stefan will be back from his, rabbit hole, and he just got crazy and ate a couple people, and now he's feeling sorry for himself and he is hating on himself. And of course, I also love this budding friendship between Damon and Elena, and also they're like sharing a house together, like playing house in the common goal of helping Stefan. It is very cute. Then we find ourselves in the grill where we see Pearl with John Gilbert. John tells Pearl that he is very surprised she even came to this meeting, and Pearl doesn't really do any pleasantries, and she dives right into the matter, and she says, Jenna tells me that you wanted to discuss the sale of the building in person. And John says, still, revealing yourself to me like this, it took quite a risk. I'm not stupid, Mr. Gilbert. You knew who I was when you requested the meeting. So, Damon tells me that you're looking for the device I took from Jonathan. I'm sure you realize I have no intention of giving it to you. That's why I wanted to meet you. I'm planning on changing your mind. Really? How so? With my Gilbert charm, I know that you have a weakness for it. May I buy you a drink? And then he signals to the waiter that they're gonna order, and I have to say that Pearl does look a tiny bit smitten by this. So, In the next scene, we are in Elena's house where we see Anna and Jeremy in Jeremy's room. Anna described to Jeremy, which we don't see, but we can get it from the context. So Anna described to Jeremy their whole history with the family, with the Gilbert family, because after this, Jeremy is asking her, so your mother was in love with Jonathan Gilbert and he betrayed her. And Anna says, yes. Jer also mentions that he knows about the device that Jonathan Gilbert created and that his uncle John wants, but device that Damon now has. Jer also adds that John told him that there is more Jonathan Gilbert journals, and that is probably the reason why Uncle John knows everything about everything. Anna is annoyed and she's asking Jeremy, like, do we have to talk about this all night? And that I already told you everything, although I shouldn't have, because these informations could get us both in a lot of trouble. Jerry tells her, I'm not gonna say anything, and Anna tells him, your Uncle John wants us dead. You don't know that. Yes, I do. He's a hater, Jeremy. Well, I'm not. No, you're something else entirely. Oh yeah? And what would that be? My weakness. Then they start kissing, and we can hear a beautiful song playing in the background, which is sung by Robert Scoro, and it's called In Line. Actually, this sounds a very Czech surname, so I actually googled it, but this guy is American and he has nothing to do with Czech culture. But I was like, oh, maybe he has Czech ancestors. He does not. Jerry then tells Anna that he doesn't want for Jenna to walk in on them, but Anna says, oh, it's okay, Jenna's in the kitchen. She just opened the fridge. And Jeremy is smitten by the fact that Anna can hear all of that. And then they go back to kissing. And I wanted to talk about a little bit about the song In Line, because it is a very pretty song, but the text itself or the lyrics itself is a little bit creepy, because he actually sings, so the singer is singing about somebody who he refers to as my friend, and he sings something along the lines, creeping underneath my skin and it feels like heaven to me. Like, I feel you creeping underneath my skin and it feels like heaven to me, which is a little bit creepy, but the song is very, very nice. I wanted to mention that it is really confusing that John and Jonathan Gilbert share the same name, because I think Uncle John is actually also a Jonathan, but they just call him John, thank God, because it's already confusing anyways. But I usually say Jonathan Gilbert, which means, the ancestor, and then Uncle John is Elena's uncle in the present. In the next scene, we see Rick and Damon, who just got to the apartment in Grove Hills. Damon tells to Rick that it's gonna be interesting because he may or may not be able to get in. Rick asks him, yeah, how does that work? You always have to be invited in? By the owner or the person of entitlement, short-term rentals and hotels are a bit of a gray area. You kind of have to play it by ear. And Alaric says, could we not kill anyone tonight, please? And Damon tells him, you mean you just brought me along for my company? And Damon then opens the door, and he is, in fact, able to walk in. He opens the fridge and sees blood bags, so he realizes that there's probably a vampire living there. In that moment, somebody jumps on Alaric, and Alaric stabs him with wooden knuckles that he has on his hand, and then the man attacks again. So Damon throws him off of Alaric and says, boys, 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 that's enough. And then he looks at the vampire and he's like, I know you. And he says, your name is Henry, you were in the tomb. And Henry says, yes, sir. What are you doing here? And this is the Henry that I was talking about in the beginning of this episode. The one that when Damon and Stefan were trying to save Catherine, the guys were also capturing Henry. So he's here again, and he will be here more later on. Then we are back in the year 1864 in another flashback. We see Stefan, who is walking towards his house, and he can hear how his father and Jonathan Gilbert are talking. Even though Stefan is outside of the house, I think he's like halfway to being vampire, so he can already hear this conversation even though he's not like in the room or in the house. And they are talking about the founders' archives and to make sure that they are accurate. But basically it means they're gonna tweak it to what they need it to be, like what they want the history to be, and it's not gonna be very accurate. So Giuseppe, who is Stefan's father, says to Jonathan, which is Jonathan Gilbert, ancestor of John Gilbert and all the Gilberts. So Giuseppe, Stefan's dad, says, be sure you document the loss of civilian life in the church. Jonathan Gilbert says, they were hardly civilians, Mr. Salvatore. As far as anyone needs to know, they were. As the record keeper for the council, what you write will be passed down through generations. Certain details should be kept only between you and me. And Jonathan asks him, for example, my sons. They will be remembered as the innocent victims of the Battle of Willow Creek, not for their shame. Certainly, Mr. Salvatore. And this whole conversation, Stefan is listening in on. Then we are back in the present where we see Elena, who is walking down to the cell to see Stefan. Stefan then tells her that Damon didn't give him vervain in a while, so he could get to the door of the cell in a split of a second and kill her. Elena says, yeah, you could, but you won't. And Stefan's like, please just go away. I don't want you here. And Elena is going totally insane, and she opens the cell door and she is walking inside. Stefan's like, what are you doing? Get out of here. No, you're taking a stupid risk. I could hurt you. Then I'm stupid. You need to drink this. And she's holding the bottle of the animal blood. And Stefan's like, Elena, get out of here or you will regret it. She says, drink. Stefan flips out. He gets up and he's shouting at her, I said, get out. And then Stefan smashes the water bottle out of Elena's hand, and his face is turning into a vampire face. He gets the veins and everything, and he's shouting in her face when he's like, I said get out. And then she goes even closer to his face with her face, and she's like, no. And it's so funny. It's like that gif of the bunny. There is a no gif of that bunny, if you know what I mean. Then we are back in the apartment with Damon and Rick, who are talking to Henry. Henry is asking Damon, so how do you know John Gilbert? Well, I've known him for years. He's a good friend. How do you know him? I met him right after I got out of the tomb. He's been helping me out. Rick asks, helping you out how? Adapting. It's a whole new world. Cars, computers, Match.com. There's so much to learn. He helped me get this place. Damon is then asking Henry if he knows Isabel. He says no, but he hesitates for a split of a second. Then he repeats that he only knows John and he's really been helping him out. Then he adds that Henry also helps John to keep an eye out on the tomb vampires who are still mad about the founding families and they want a revenge. Rick is then asking what does John have to do with the tomb vampires, and Henry says, oh, he's just looking out for them so that they don't get into trouble. And Damon then sarcastically says, well, that's John, he's such a do-gooder. Henry's phone then rings and it's John calling him. Damon tells Henry, let me talk to John. So Henry's like, okay, and he gives him the cell phone, but then Damon just watches it ring and Henry is all confused. He's asking what's happening, and then he realizes that it's probably a trap. He tries to escape and Damon grabs him and Rick stakes him. Damon then pats Rick on the shoulder and says, let's not kill anyone tonight. Your words, just pointing that out. And I just love them together. I mean, I think I've mentioned it before, but I do love Rick and Damon together and their relationship. In the next scene, we are back in the grill where we see Pearl and John. Pearl is asking him why should she give him the device. And he says, because I can help you. I'm connected around here. The town council's eating out of my hand. They do whatever I say. And I know that you just want to live your life, complete with white picket fence, and I can help you do that. But the device doesn't work. Why would you even want it? It's a family heirloom. Call me sentimental. Jonathan was ahead of his time. I read his journals. They were extensive. He actually wrote about you. You were his one regret. He loved you, and he hated himself for what he did to you. Pearl says, you're lying. No. On his last days, he wrote how sorry he was. You were the only woman he ever loved. We can see that Pearl is getting emotional, and then all of a sudden John starts to laugh in her face, and he's like, good god, you vampires, you're so emotional. Jonathan Gilbert hated you. His only regret was that he didn't drive a stake through your heart himself. And Pearl gets pissed. She gets up and she's like, I gave it to Damon. What? I gave your device to Damon. Why don't you ask him for it yourself? I'm sure he'd be delighted to give it to you. And then, Mr. Gilbert, may you rot in hell. And then she walks off, and I just love this. I love this. And I hate John for doing that to her. I mean, that's just evil. In the next scene, we see Elena and Stefan, who are sitting together in Stefan's cell. Elena is asking Stefan, like, why is he doing what he's doing right now? And he says that he's making a decision that he should have made years ago. She's like, what are you talking about? You have to feed in order to complete the transition. Yeah, I know that. It was a choice I shouldn't have made. In the next scene, in a flashback, Stefan is walking into his father's study or office. Giuseppe looks up from his table and he's surprised and he's like, dear God. And Stefan says, even in our debt, you only feel shame. Because let's not forget, Stefan did hear the whole conversation with Jonathan Gilbert, where his father was basically saying they have to alter the books and the history books, and like they will be remembered as heroes that died in a battle and not like vampire sympathizers. So Giuseppe says, oh God, even in our debt you only feel shame. You are one of them now. No, father, I came to say goodbye. I watched you die. You were there when we were shot? I pulled the trigger myself. You killed your own sons? You were both dead to me the moment you sided with the vampires. I only thank God that your mother is in life to see the disgrace you have become. I haven't turned yet. I don't want to. I'm going to let myself die. Father, please. Yes, you are. Then Giuseppe gets this like wooden stick that is leaning on the wall, and he snaps it in two, and he tries to stab Stefan. But Stefan throws him against the wall, and the stake impales his father. Then Stefan rushes towards him and he's like, oh father, I didn't mean to. Giuseppe says, get away from me. And Stefan says, no, let me help you, please. Then Stefan removes the stake from his father's chest, and he sees the blood on the stake and on his fingers. And then, after a little bit of thinking about it, he licks his fingers. Then his father is covering the wound with his hands, so Stefan moves the hands away to get to the blood and licks more of the blood. And then his eyes start to transform, and he is saying, oh God, what is happening to me? And then we also see that his fangs have grown in his mouth. But what I found really nice, or really a cool detail in this episode, is that when Stefan is looking at the stake with the blood on it, only thing you can hear in the background is a beating heart, which is probably what also Stefan can only hear. And I have watched this show so many times and I never like noticed it or realized it, but I watched it maybe 5 or 6 times this time around to this episode to like be prepared for the podcast, and I realized that it's a beating heart, and it's such a good detail that like he's fighting this urge to feed and to become a living dead, to become a vampire, and all you can hear is the beating heart, and it consumes you. That's all you can think about. Nothing else matters in that moment. And this scene is powerful because Stefan learns that it was their own father who killed both of them, which is insane. And then he basically kills his father, even though it is an accident, but still. Then we are back in the present with Elena and Stefan in the cell. And we understand that Stefan just told the story to Elena. And Stefan asks her, how can you even look at me right now? And she says, you need to be able to talk about these things, Stefan. I need to hear them. Come upstairs, we can talk about it more, and we'll keep talking as long as you need. You're so sure I'm ready. Then Elena pulls out Stefan's ring and places it on next to him. And she says, and when you feel the same way, I'll be upstairs. And then she walks away. And in this scene, we can also see Stefan's, or I should say Paul's, tattoo. And can you explain to me how a vampire can have a tattoo? Because vampires heal super fast, so it wouldn't stay. And of course, he could have had it from before he turned a vampire, but since he turned in 1864, I don't think tattoos were that common, so that makes no sense. In the next scene, we see Rick and Damon still in the apartment. Damon is throwing a beer to Rick, tells him that he found it in the fridge and he helped himself to a glass of blood. And then Rick says, oh man, this was a real dead end. I wouldn't beat myself up over it, man. What did you think we were gonna find, huh? Isabel with a cigar and slippers? And then Rick starts to laugh kind of maniacally or like crazily, and he says, oh man, I gotta stop this. I can't keep searching for her. And Damon, really? After only 2 years? That's actually moderately healthy. What are you going on? 146? Well, I figured the 200 mark is probably a good stopping point. I mean, no answer is enough. I keep thinking, I want to know why, when, the precise moment when my wife decided that life with me wasn't enough. She charmed me, your wife Isabel. She talked a good game, man. She was smart. She had this excitement in her eyes. So probably should have known that there was something different about her, some tie to Catherine. There had to be a reason I didn't kill her. That's enough, Damon. I don't want to hear anymore. I just don't want to waste any more of my life searching for answers that I really don't want. I'm through with Isabel. I'm done with all of this. Yeah. And then Rick gets up and he walks off. And Damon is like kind of looking at him with an understanding in his face, because I think he does know what Rick is going through. In the next scene, we see Pearl and Anna in their house, or I should say in Miss Gibbons' house. But since Miss Gibbons is dead because Damon killed her when he was saving Stefan, I guess it is Pearl's house now. Anyways, Pearl is telling Anna that she needs to pack her bags and they have to leave. That she was wrong when she thought that they could stay there. Anna's like, but I don't want to move on. I want to stay. We can't stay. There's too many people who know the truth. Too much history. So what? You're just gonna give up, pack us up and move us out? It's not safe here. You know that. Please. Is this about Jeremy? No, it's about me finally getting to build a life for myself. Please, Mom. You gave me my life back. I'm just trying to protect yours. I can't force you. It's your decision. Then we are back in Damon's house and we see Elena, who is writing in her diary because, vampire diaries, right? Damon is walking in and he pretends that he's annoyed that Elena is still there. And he's like, oh, God, you're still here? And then he walks over to Elena. He picks up Elena's legs and sits down on the couch and places her legs over his lap. Elena asks him, so how was the errand? Futile. Although, I think I witnessed the teacher having an existential crisis. Has Stefan eaten yet? I think he's getting there, but he's got a lot of guilt that he has to deal with, and it doesn't help that you've spent the last 145 years punishing him for Catherine getting caught. Damon's getting upset and he's like, so that's my fault now? No, it's no one's fault, Damon. I'm just saying, you're not exactly innocent. You've made it your life's mission to make him miserable. Damon gets up and he's like, let me ask you a question. In all this important soul searching and cleansing of the demons of Stefan's past, did you ever manage to get the rest of the story? He said there was more. Yeah, that's an understatement. Elena gets up, she sees that he is upset and she's like, Damon, tell me. So we are back in 1864 in another flashback, and Stefan is walking to Damon and he is bringing a girl with him. Damon is asking him who is that and what is Stefan doing. Stefan is all like crazy and all like hyped up, and he's like, I brought you a gift. And Damon understands that Stefan must have fed and completed the transition. So he's like, what have you done, Stefan? Damon, I've been to see father. He came at me. I didn't know my own strength. There was blood everywhere. He was dying and the blood was too strong. I needed it. I had to have it. And Damon's like, you fed. Yes, and it's incredible. My body is exploding with power, Damon. No, I can hear things from far away. I can see through the darkness. I can move like it's magic. And the guilt, the pain, Damon, I can turn it off. Like a switch. Catherine was right. It's a whole another world out there, Damon. Catherine is dead, Stefan. There's no world without her. No, you can turn that off too. You don't have to feel that pain anymore. And Damon's like, no, I don't want this. And he gets up and he's trying to leave. And Stefan grabs him and he's like, you're weak. You'll be dead soon. You need this. No, you will die. No, I can't. Please, I won't let you die. No, I can't. Don't fight it. We can do this together. Then Stefan grabs the girl who clearly has been compelled and he brings her closer to Damon. Then he bites into her neck and there you could see like a little bit of blood on her neck, and then Damon is looking at it, and then Stefan shoves the girl in Damon's face, so Damon bites down and he drinks and he completes the transition. This scene is super strong. It is taking place at night. There is like moon shining down on them, and Stefan is acting like a total fanatic in this scene, and Damon is super weak, and I think he really didn't have very far from death at this point. Then we are back in the living room with Elena and Damon is continuing talking. From the moment Stefan had his first taste of human blood, he was a different person. I suppose I should thank him. It's been a hell of a ride. Oh my god. He said he wanted to die. That's why he won't feed. Now I understand why, but his choice. If he's stupid enough to make it, so be it. Don't do that, okay? Don't pretend like you don't care. Where are you going? Elena is in fact going down to the cellar, and Stefan is gone, but his ring is still on the bed. Elena picks it up and runs out of the cell. In the next scene, we have Jeremy, who is sleeping in his room, and Anna appears. Jeremy sees that she's there, but he's halfway asleep, and Anna then she tries to talk to him, but she understands that he will not remember, so she just whispers goodbye and she kisses him. So I guess we know that she's gonna go with Pearl. In the next scene, we see Stefan, who is in the quarry, and that's the place where he made Damon turn into a vampire, and this is in the present. But right after that, we find ourselves in the flashback in 1864 in the quarry, where Damon and Stefan are now both vampires. Stefan is asking him, how do you feel? You were right, it's a whole new world, and we can explore it together. You got what you wanted, you and me, for all eternity. But hear this, brother, I will make it an eternity of misery for you. And then Stefan's like, Damon? But Damon just gets up and walks away. We jump back into the present, where we see Stefan, who is being super weak. And then right away we are back in the past, where Emily finds Stefan. Emily remarks, you've transitioned. You'd rather found me dead? Catherine saved my life once. I owed her. That doesn't mean I would wish her curse on anyone. It feels more like a gift that will change. Why is that? Because even in that, your heart is pure, Stefan. I sense that about you. That will be your curse. Then he says, Emily, wait. And then he's like, switching back and forth between the present and the past. And then we are back in the present. We're still in the quarry, and Stefan is still there, and Elena is coming towards him. And she says, Stefan, Damon told me the rest of the story. I thought I might find you here. And Stefan tells her, I should have died that night, just like I had chosen. I should have let Damon die too. But you didn't, and if you die now, it's not going to change what happened. Every single person that's been hurt, every single life that has been lost, it's because of me. Elena then tells him, the night that my parents died, I blew a family night so I could go to some party. I ended up getting stranded and they had to come pick me up. That's why we ended up in the car at Vickery Bridge, and that's why they died. Our actions are what set things in motion, but we have to live with that. I made a choice, Elena. Because of that choice, a lot of people were hurt. But you also made a choice to stop, to reject the person that the blood made you. You made a choice to be good, Stefan. No, please don't do that. That's the person who jumped in the water to save the family whose car had driven off the bridge. That's the person who saved my life. And then he says, you don't understand. And she says, then tell me. And Stefan says, it hurts me. It hurts me knowing what I've done. And that pain is with me all the time. And every day I think that if I just give myself over to the blood, I can make that pain stop. It would be that easy. And every day I fight that. And I'm so terrified that one day I'm not going to want to fight that anymore, Elena. And the next time I hurt someone, it could be you. There will be no next time. You don't know that. Maybe I don't, but what I do know is that you can take this, throw it in the quarry and let the sun rise. Or you could take the ring and put it on and keep fighting. Then she hugs him, gives him a kiss, and gives him the ring and says, it is your choice. And then she starts to walk away, and she walks like maybe 2 or 3 meters, and Stefan yells at her, Elena, wait, or something. And he puts the ring on, and they hug and kiss, and it's like, I think I needed a little bit more time. I think for me, it would be more believable if she left the ring with him and walked away, and he would then be there alone for like another hour or two thinking about things, and then come home and be like, okay, well, I thought about it and I'm not going to do it, because that was such a quick decision. Like, he's talking like how he regrets everything and it's such horrible choices and killed so many people, and then like split of a second and he's like, oh, Elena, okay, I'm good, I'm gonna put the ring back on. Like, really? I don't know, I didn't really even like this whole scene where they're talking, because it just seems like super long and dragged out, and I don't know, I wasn't a fan of this scene. And then we are back at Pearl's house, where she's already all packed up. She also tells Harper that Anna will be there any minute, and if Harper doesn't want to come with them, he doesn't have to. But Harper says that this was never his home and she saved him, so he's coming with them. Then Pearl opens the front door, and all of a sudden there's a stake in her heart. We only see Harper, how he catches her, and Pearl is gone. In the next scene, we have Elena and Stefan, who are walking into the library in Stefan's and Damon's house, and Elena is leaving them alone. Stefan says thank you to Damon, and Damon's like, no, Stefan, thank you. You are back on Bambi blood, and I'm the big badass brother again. All is right in the world. I mean it. Thank you for helping her take care of me. You brute too much. Everything on this planet is not your fault. My actions, what I do, it's not your fault. I own them. They belong to me. You're not allowed to feel my guilt. Do you feel guilt? If I wanted to, it's there. Emily waited till after I turned to tell me that she have been successful in protecting Catherine with her spell. She didn't want me to know about the tomb. She thought it would impact my decision. And Stefan's like, she didn't want either of us to turn. She said it was a curse. And Damon says, witches, judgy little things. Why didn't you tell me? Because I didn't want you to know. Because I hated you and I still do. I know. But not because you forced me to turn. Because she turned you. It was just supposed to be me, Stefan. Just me. And this again is like, I don't know, like you've been at it for 145 years. I mean, at some point you like kind of have to get over that, but I get it. It's a show. I'm just being like too dramatic sometimes. In the next scene, we see Anna, who is coming back home, and she finds her mom and Harper with stakes in their hearts. And she starts crying, and she's like, I'm back. And then she's like, Mom, please don't leave me again. Please wake up. You have to wake up. And it's so heartbreaking. I mean, they just got reunited, and it's just so sad. And it doesn't matter how many times I see this scene, I'm always like hoping that Pearl somehow is gonna survive. And I also really liked Harper. So this scene is just heartbreaking no matter how many times I see it. Then we see Uncle John, who is loading some steaks into the trunk of his car, and he's also calling Sheriff Forbes and says, It's John Gilbert. Sorry to call so late, but I have an update about the vampires. And we, of course, realize that it was John who, in fact, killed Harper and Pearl. And Anna actually said that to Jeremy, like, your uncle once is dead, and now he kills her mom. That's like really messed up. And then we approach the final scene of this episode, and we see Alaric, who is drinking away his sorrows at the grill, and some woman approaches him, and she says, Hi, Rick. And Rick is totally shocked. He turns over in slow motion, and he's like, Isabel. So Isabel is appearing on the screen, and this is, my friends, the very last scene of this episode. This episode was so packed. I feel like my tongue is twisted together. I don't even know who I am, what century I am in, what is happening. But we got through it, and I still have some things I want to talk about this episode. So let's have a look at that. So if we circle back to the name of this episode, I really do think that it has like a double meaning. So it is definitely about Stefan and Damon being real brothers in real life, but I also think that blood brothers means in this episode that they actually completed the transition into vampires by drinking blood. Therefore, blood brothers. In this episode, we also see Emily again, and we see that she kept her word that she gave to Catherine, even though she really didn't want to, because Emily knows how hard it is to be a vampire. Then, of course, in this episode, we find out how it actually all happened, that Damon and Stefan turned into vampires, and that Stefan basically made Damon to turn into a vampire, which is something that hasn't been shown before, and it's kind of like it took a long time. I mean, it's episode 20 for us to learn how that actually happened, and I think it's a nice twist, because I feel like we would all assume that if anything it was the other way around and Damon forced Stefan to become a vampire, but that did not happen. It was the other way around, and it was Stefan. So that was definitely a plot twist. As I mentioned, also one of the saddest scenes, or I think the saddest scene in this episode, is definitely Pearl dying, because that really got to me. It always gets to me no matter how many times I watch it, because they just got reunited together and now they are apart again, and that is just too sad. Of course, one of my favorite parts about this episode is a budding romance, or let's say friendship, between Alaric and Damon. I love the talk that they have after they kill Henry, which is like, you guys really didn't have to kill Henry, but okay. But I just love their total like beef that they have together, but also like a bonding moment. I love that. When Rick is like, oh, I gotta stop searching for her. And Damon's like, oh, only after 2 years. That's actually really healthy. Like, I love that. But also, Rick just gave up on finding Isabel, and then she turns up at the end of the episode. I mean, come on. That's always like what happens when you're like, okay, I'm gonna move on now. Then the person's like, oh, you ain't moving on. I'm right back and with my bullshit here to keep you in. So, yeah, that makes sense. Also, I wanted to talk about Henry, and Henry is a character that appears again in season 7 in flashbacks. And I don't want to say too much about it because we're so far from there, but let's say that Damon is reliving some of his worst memories in this storyline that is happening in season 7, and we see Henry and Damon and them being soldiers together in the Civil War and being friends. But if that was a real memory, then I don't think that Damon would kill Henry so easily. I mean, I really didn't even understand why they killed Henry. I mean, I guess they might have been like worried that they're gonna hurt Elena or some like town people. I don't know, but it was weird. But anyways, Henry does appear again in season 7. We will be talking about Henry again, and I don't know. So Damon kind of relives his worst memories in season 7. So maybe the only explanation would be that they weren't actually friends as it is portrayed in this memory, but maybe that is not a real memory, and it was just Damon's regret of killing Henry in this episode. I'm really not sure, but I will put in my notes, and then when we do get to season 7, we will definitely be talking about this. And if you have any ideas about this, if you know about this Henry thing, if they were actually friends or what was happening, definitely let me know in the comments. Then I also enjoyed in this episode Elena and Damon and their coexisting in Damon's house and their deepening friendship. Also, in this episode, another deepening thing is my hatred towards Uncle John. I really, really hate that guy. He's so just. I just hate him. Again, in this episode, we have this overly using of names like, oh, I know that Elena. No, you don't know that Damon. Yes, I know that Elena. Again, if you have any idea why they do that, why the writers put so much of the names like in the conversations, because when you think about it, or next time when you talk to your friend, you can count how many times you use their name. I bet you it's maybe once or never. So if you know why they over and overuse the names here, let me know. For me, I really do think it's because they are trying to keep the viewers' attention and maybe to show them like what is happening, who is talking with who, and what is this about, like just for attention span. Other than that, I really don't see a point where you would keep repeating the name over and over again. Also, John is super cruel in the scene where he tells Pearl that Jonathan Gilbert regretted what he did to her, and then he laughs in her face. Like, that was really messed up. Also, I found it funny that in every scene that we have in Stefan and Damon's library, the fireplace is on, or like not on, but like there is a fire in the fireplace, and I am really surprised that they don't have like some kind of a someone who takes care of their house that we would see, like someone who takes care of like cleaning the house and like putting the fire, like making the fire in the fireplaces and stuff like that. Some, like housekeeper or something. And now again, Stefan is pretty dramatic in this episode with his like suicidal rampage, and I didn't really enjoy that storyline, and I find it weird that all of a sudden he just doesn't want to fight, not even for Elena. And did he like even realize what that would do to Elena if he actually in fact did like go into the sun and burned, like after her losing her parents and everything? If anything, he could have broken up with her. Like if he really meant this and wanted to just be done with his vampire life, he could have just break up with her, tell her, listen, I'm a vampire, you're a human, this is not gonna work, see ya, and move away, and then go take his ring off and go into the sun. Like, he could have, if he wanted to, he could have done that without torturing her and doing that to her. Again, this whole suicidal Stefan thing was not my thing. I didn't enjoy it. I did like the flashbacks. We learned a lot, but I didn't like it. But Paul's acting was great. His hallucinations and wandering between the present and the past, that was great. I just didn't enjoy the suicidal Stefan storyline. And I do get that it's a show and they need to put stuff in the show. Like, I get it. So, again, both Ian and Paul, great acting in this episode. And circling back to Paul's tattoo, I was Googling it, and on Reddit, I was reading that the makers or the creators actually just didn't feel like covering up Paul's tattoo, so they just kind of left it in there. But I mean, it would be so easy to explain it in like one sentence where like Elena could be like, "Oh, like what's the story behind the tattoo?" And he could have just been like, "Oh, I was at a party once and I met the witch," and they could have just explained it that it was like a magically made tattoo, and it would be like over, and there wouldn't have to be 10 pages on Reddit about this because vampires do heal. So like it wouldn't stay. And if he was turned into a vampire in like 1980s, then yeah, it's fine. He got before he was a vampire. But anyways, it is a show. I actually read the book that is also called I Was Feeling Epic, and it came out last year, and it was like conversations or interviews with the writers of the show and the actors and all of that. And I did not realize that, let's say they were making episode 5, like they were shooting it, the writers only might have been in episode 7, like writing episode 7. So I always thought that they kind of have had an outline for the whole season, so they knew like what will go down in each episode and what the plot will be and what the like final big thing will be in the season. But apparently that was not the case, and they just kind of wrote as they went on. Like they didn't know like what's gonna happen in another 10 episodes. They just kind of wrote the episode that they needed for next time, and that was it, which to me was bizarre. Like I feel I would go crazy because I feel like I would need some kind of like, okay, this is gonna happen, this is what we're gonna do this season. But it wasn't like that, so that was really funny to me. I do want to do an episode about that book and about stuff from the book as well, as like a bonus episode. I'm not sure why. Maybe after we finish season 1, or maybe later on, because there probably will be things from later seasons as well in the book. So yeah, maybe we will save it. But anyways, this is all from me for today. This was a long one. There was so many informations. It was a little bit confusing even for me when I was now like trying to record it. I was like, oh my god, what is happening? But we got through it, and we learned a lot of stuff. I hope that you are doing great. I have been away for a week. I was in Florida with my friend. We went to the Harry Potter world. It was awesome. There was so many people though. If I ever go back, I do think I'm gonna get the express pass for the rides, because we only end up going on 2 rides, which were really good. But I wish I could have done more Harry Potter rides. The castle was also being repaired, so like the roof wasn't there, or like the, what is it called, the towers wasn't there. So that was sad. But again, it's like we are in AI world, so my friend was actually able to put our photos in Google somehow, AI something, and she added the towers on the castle, so we do have normal pictures with the castle. So that was nice, and it was really cute. And a lot of the shops were like actually open. Like there was the, what is it called, honeydukes, I think, with all the candy. There was also the store that George and Fred have in book 6, I want to say, or book 5, one of those. So there was like all kinds of things you could buy there. I got a mug with Hedwig on it, and it says waiting for my letter. And then I got this thing for my keys, for the wall where you can hang your keys, and it says mischief managed, because I wanted to get like the map. But what am I gonna do with it? Like I would rather have some souvenirs that I'm gonna use, so I got those. And I also got 2 Christmas cards that I will send my friend who is a total Harry Potter geek as well. But yeah, it was great. And my friend lives like near the ocean, so we went to the beach and we went to the pool, and it was very relaxing, and I really needed it. So, but I did miss the podcast. I was very excited to record today. Anyways, I hope that you guys are having a great week. It's finally spring, so I hope that you will get to relax, enjoy your weekend, do something fun, do something that you love, that gives you happiness, because that is something we all have to strive for these days in this crazy world, right? So we have to find little pieces of happiness for ourselves. And happiness can be found even in the darkest places. So I hope that you're doing great, and we will meet here again next week, where we will be talking about episode 21. Again, if you have any comments, anything you want to tell me, any maybe observations about the things that I talked about and maybe you didn't have the answer, you can put that in the comments. And you can also follow my vampire Instagram, which is TVD forever. I was feeling epic. And we will meet here again next week. Have a great weekend, everybody. Bye.